Hey everyone, and welcome to another Monday and a carrier update presented by PowerFleet. So, tender volumes continue to be flat-ish. So we're not really seeing any significant declines, but over the last couple of months, we can see here's the peak season right here, right around November. We had peak volumes right around Thanksgiving. They have fallen roughly 10% to this point now, but it's been a pretty steady decline. I think this would come as a surprise to most people operating in the space because you feel this capacity reduction significantly more. That's why we have our tender rejection index to tell you just exactly what that supply-demand situation is. So volumes, demand is really not declining super fast, but it is still going down slowly over the past several weeks or so. So what does that mean for the market conditions in terms of capacity? So today I wanted to focus more on a region versus the entire country, but you can see that we do have a pretty good mix of blue and red across the eastern half of the country. The west continues to be relatively volatile up here in the Pacific Northwest. Los Angeles, Ontario market is starting to come down a little bit more, softer conditions there with the weighted rejection index creating that dark red value in the Ontario market. But I want to pick on Atlanta, for instance, this week. So Atlanta, you can see, is super tall. It's the biggest market in the country right now, with roughly 4% of the total outbound market volumes coming out of it. But you can tell it is super red. So this red indicates on the weighted rejection index a softening or loosening situation versus this time last week. So last Monday, we were a little bit tighter than we were right now. So Atlanta market is the hub for the Southeast. So what that means is a lot of the freight originates here and it goes into other Southeastern markets. You have a lot of regional freight here, a lot of regional carriers, but you also have a lot of inbound. And that's what's creating a lot of this oversupply situation in the Atlanta market today. So I want to give you another few options. So we talk about the weighted rejection index quite a bit on this show now, and I wanted to show it to you on a chart, but I want to show it to you in relation to how you can use this to basically identify other better areas, especially in times where the Atlanta market is starting to fall off a cliff like we saw over the last few weeks. So you see the weighted rejection index right here. The Atlanta market is in the mountain in the dark blue, negative 4.57. That is a pretty soft signal for a market. You see the Birmingham and, the Nashville and the Charlotte market here are both showing positive signs. Now they're not going off the charts. This isn't a huge blowing up situation, but we've got Nashville at 0.47 and Charlotte at 1.2. An indication that both these markets are tightening a little bit, not dramatically over the last little bit, but it is a much better situation for these markets than the Atlanta market, which is kind of the market that carriers will go into just blindly. So you get a load request going into the Atlanta market, and you tend to just say, you know what, there's a lot of volume there. I need to go ahead and just accept it blindly or whatever. But you might have another opportunity sitting in Charlotte or Nashville or even Birmingham, anywhere else in the Southeast right now. If you remember our map of the Southeast, we had some blue positioned around the Atlanta market. Those are going to be a little bit more opportunity coming out of those markets versus this time last week. So the Charlotte and Nashville markets are a little bit better chances of finding some freight here in the near future. So just to give it in perspective here, outbound tender rejection rate. So you can see 9.3%, 6.2% out of both Charlotte and Nashville. So you're seeing tightening conditions over the last few days coming out of these markets. Atlanta continues directionally to soften at 4.34%. Now volumes are not going to be extensive out of either of these two markets. Charlotte is a little bit bigger, but rejection rates going up indicate increasing opportunities for carriers out there to find some freight on the spot. So make sure that you don't just ignore and get lazy in your habits going into some of these bigger markets just because they're bigger for big sake, I should say. So here's the Atlanta market broken down in terms of length of haul. So one of the things that's creating a problem with capacity loosening is the long haul outbound tender volumes are on a decline. This is going to make this market a little bit more prevalent with the short haul, mid-haul volumes, which come back into the Atlanta market. Capacity not reducing as rapidly out of that because of this. So you know, you see over here in our short haul outbound tender rejection index, this is the part that's getting the most, it's getting the tightest over the last few days. So make sure that you are going into Atlanta market and knowing that you're probably going to have a lot more trouble getting out of it. And that'll do it for today's carrier update.
The comprehensive logistics offerings from PowerFleet cover in-cab ELD, fleet management, trailer tracking, cargo monitoring, and tracking other assets such as chassis and intermodal containers. Power up your operations with PowerFleet.